Hi, I'm Diane and I have compiled 25 stories from 25 different women in my compilation book, From Us for You, Inspiring Stories of Healing, Growth, and Transformation. And one of the things we decided to do was to give our net profits to a nonprofit organization who advocates for and helps in the needs of women. So today, I'm really excited to have Mesha Davis with us, and she is the CEO of the Arizona Foundation for Women, which is the organization that we are going to be giving those proceeds to. So thank you for being with us today, Mesha. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Diane. I'm excited to be here and honored that you chose our foundation.
Well, absolutely. And we have a lot of authors that are very excited about your organization too. So we wanted to give people a little bit more about your organization, about you. And so why don't you just start by giving just a brief introduction of who you are and what the organization is.
Great. As Diane, as you said, I'm the CEO of Arizona Foundation for Women. My name is Mesha Davis. And, it's the story. I always started off the same way of, talking about how we began. But I thought, I'm just going to put a little twist to it. It's interesting how we as women, when we see something's not right or we have a problem with it, we immediately want to take action and make change. And that's basically how this organization started. There was a young woman at the time named our founder, Marilyn R. Seaman, and she saw that in Arizona at the time, so this is like the early 90s, that of all the philanthropic support and dollars that went out to help, local nonprofits, animal shelters, you name it, only 4% went to help women. And she saw that as a huge issue and alarm and said, we need to do something about this. So she got together a bunch of her friends and community leaders and said, let's do something to make change and to change that number for women. Unfortunately, on a national level, a new report came out, I believe earlier this year at the end of last year, and we've dipped as a nation in that number, and now only 2% of the funding is going towards women and all philanthropic dollars. And so again, this is a time where COVID has unfortunately shown that women have been impacted more. So we really have a lot more work to do because we've taken a lot of steps backwards. And so the organization originally started to help women, and the one area of focus was domestic violence. And as time went on, we realized that this is great, but we can do all the things we want to do. We can try to share the message, help local organizations that are doing direct service to protect women who are impacted by domestic partner, whatever type of violence. But nothing's going to change if we don't change the laws and the systems that are in place to protect women. So the organization really took a turn after the first few years, still focused on domestic violence, but so let's get really into the policy. And so for about 15 or so years, we really have done a lot of policy work, advocating for women at the legislative, if a city, state, government budgets were being put together and there were cuts, for example, for childcare, we would say, no, you can't cut childcare because if you do, this is how it's going to impact women, the family, and our state as a whole. So, so then we decided, or not decided, we learned that there's 3 areas that if women have this support in, that things could be better. And that's safety of women, the health of women, and having women to be economically empowered. So that's kind of our history in a quick nutshell of how we transform to let's change how women are getting the financial support. Let's change how our systems and laws are put in place. And now let's really look at the 3 things that prevent women from succeeding. And that was safety, health, and economic empowerment. And that's what we've been doing to this day.
Very, very good. Very good. That's interesting because I think a lot of times people forget about the laws.
Mhm.
and how important that is and what an impact that can have. So that's great. It's interesting. Many of the women who have written chapters in this book, I mean, they come through all kinds of different situations and difficult relationships, some abusive relationships, and financial challenges and all of that. And they were very interested in, that the proceeds were going to go to a nonprofit. So can you tell us a little bit more? Now, I know you do domestic violence, but I know you do some other programs too. Can you talk about, kind of variety of some of the programs that you offer?
Sure. And like I said, domestic violence is kind of where we started. And that's that time that the group of individuals who were helping form the organization had their passion behind. But since then, we've done things for advocating for women with breast cancer. And, a lot of individuals, when they find themselves being diagnosed with breast cancer, there's a lot of things that are covered and aren't covered by insurance. And it's those little things that we don't think about until we need them when you have breast cancer. And so, for example, there's an organization we support that actually puts together those items that cost a lot of money but it's not covered by insurance that no one thinks of, and puts together these kits and a lot of emotional things too. We also support women who have found themselves homeless after leaving a violent situation or any type of situation. So we help support women who need housing. We support education. One of the programs that we've actually started that we saw was a gap, and actually a local woman actually started this as her give back to a nonprofit, but she's given us the full rights to put together this program, and it's called She Leads. And it's really about helping get women to a position of leadership and learning how to be leaders, whether it's personally in their homes, advocating for themselves, or at work. Asking for a raise, how much are you worth? Don't be afraid, going for that next promotion, or how do I ask for a promotion? How do I get interested in other, levels within my company? And so we have that program. We also have She Talks. And She Talks is almost similar to what you're doing right now, Diane. It's basically bringing hot issues to the table, addressing them, sharing it with the community, and bringing experts along to talk about how we are trying to fix the situation, how individuals can help, or where to go for help. So just to give you an example, we had a She Talks on the opioid crisis here in Arizona. And I don't know if you're aware, but we're one of the top states with the highest rate of people being addicted and passing away because of opioid use. And these are prescribed drugs by, doctors. So this isn't, people think, oh, well, they're just drug addicts. No, these are prescription drugs. And so we brought a panel of nonprofit places that you can go, hotlines you can call, what are states doing about it. So we had our local police, how they're actually trying to train police officers to identify people who are on drugs or have some type of prescription addiction, and not just classify them as a criminal. You have to deal with it in a certain way. And we have the governor's office there talking about how we're trying to combat this as a state. So really having all the key players, and it's open, they're all free to the public, as so is our She Leads program. It's a very small little fee to just, get in the program, because we want people to say that they're vested. And so the She Talks really covers areas, again, around health issues, safety issues, and the economic empowerment of women. And then we do research. We really dive deep into every 3 to 4 years of looking at how women are fared here in Arizona and how we compare to the rest of the US states. And Diane, you could probably guess, our scores are extremely low in almost every category. So it's just one thing I like to share. There's one irony to this. Arizona, for over the last 10 years, has been one of the top states with the most female legislators. However, we rank low in all of the categories. So we have women now that have voice, they have power, and they have the position to make change. And so, yes, we're proud of that number, but the numbers of how women overall are impacted are extremely low, and we really need to do something about that. So,
Mhm. That's interesting. Well, yeah, maybe now is the time, right? Just to really push that. Yeah, for sure, for sure. Um, how did you personally get involved with nonprofits?
So by accident, a lot of people I believe you talk to, they don't say, oh, I'm going to, grow up to be in the nonprofit world and make little bitty money and work a lot of hours. It actually was by accident. I worked at a bank and I thought I was going to be, either an accountant, and then I changed my degree and I said, no, I want to be this big marketing exec and, for a top PR company in LA, Chicago, or New York. I had it all planned out. And so a friend of mine was actually leaving the bank that I worked at, and this was in Wisconsin. And she kept getting passed over for accounting positions, and she had her degree, she passed her CPA, she was African American, and she kept getting passed over for individuals with less experience. And she had worked at the bank, knew their systems and everything. And it was all men. They were all men getting these positions. And I finally said, they're not going to hire you, you need to leave. And so she got an opportunity at the YMCA at the time. And I jokingly said, oh my goodness, if you see something, let me know. I got to get out of here, because we had got bought out by a bigger bank. We were a small local community bank, and we got bought out by a bank from another state that was trying to expand their territory. And they got rid of all the women VP and exec jobs and said, we no longer need your position, and brought in all these males from another state and just called the positions a different name. And it was so obvious. And so I knew right then and there I could no longer work for this, bank. And so I left, and luckily a position came open in the marketing department for the YMCA. It's what I wanted to do at the time. And then I just fell in love when I saw that instead of helping shareholders get their pockets bigger and fatter, which is fine, there's nothing wrong with people making money, right? But I saw the impact of helping individuals who were low income, struggling single moms, and that I found that more gratifying than hearing the reports of how much money the company made versus how many lives we've saved or people that we moved forward. So when I moved to Minnesota from Wisconsin, I had the opportunity to volunteer for the Women's Foundation in Minnesota. And I helped actually start with a group of other women. It was for African American women giving circle. And so we were able to, ask nonprofits to submit grants. We were able to award the grants, and that was so gratifying. And then we moved here. So I only got 1 year of that. And then when this position came open at Arizona Foundation for Women, I knew right away that this is where I wanted to be, because I've always wanted to be in that helping, giving, empowering environment growing up with a single mother and watching her really struggle. So so that's how I got here. It actually happened pretty quickly. I honestly didn't think, I had a shot when I looked at the historic women who had the positions before me. They were all white women, and I said, oh, they're never going to hire someone Black. And so who knew, right? So this was 2016. So yeah.
What a great story, though. What a great story, and a natural inspiration, and that's wonderful. That's wonderful. Well, we're glad you're here.
Yes, thank you. I'm glad to be here too.
So I wanted to ask if you could maybe share an example or two of some of the women that you've helped. Your organizations have helped. I mean, can you make it a little real for us?
Yeah, so we really try to help local, small, grassroots nonprofits. In the past, we've had some big funders who were very specific about where they wanted their funds to go. So we've supported the YWCA, Girl Scouts of Cactus Pine, Child Help, Tumbleweed. I don't know if you remember that when they were around. So we've helped a lot of organizations, Florence Critton, that you would be familiar with. And recently, we pivoted because we really saw that there are some really unknown local nonprofits that people are not aware of. They're filling gaps and they're filling the gaps of voids of what women need. Like I talked about the breast cancer kits, the things you don't think about, not the normal things. Like, everyone may need a wig or things like that, but there's so many other things you just don't think about. And so we try to help these organizations that, believe it or not, and in most cases, they're doing more than some of the big nonprofits that you already heard of. And not saying they're not doing great work, but it's like, you're doing what? With how many people? And you're serving how many women in. So those are the organizations that we really try to help, because they take all of their money and really put it into the programs and the services that are needed, but then they don't have the staff and resources to do fundraising to keep the organization going, to do events and things like that. So they look to us to help fund those, that support for them. So we're really proud of that. And on our website at azfw.org, you will see a lot of the organizations we've funded over the last 20 years, so 20 plus years. So so that's where our focus is right now, and we hope to grow our endowment so that we can fund. If I had my crystal ball, and if you asked me what my ultimate goal would be, is I would like to go to, let's say we start with 5 nonprofits and say, what's your funding gap? And say, okay, we will fund you. We just want you to focus on the mission, and we'll focus on the money. We just want you to provide the services and help women as much as you can, and take away that stress and time trying to fundraise. And so if we can provide that and then slowly keep growing, the nonprofits that are needing, we don't want to keep funding everyone that maybe does the same thing, but maybe those who are doing something really well, and spread that and keep growing the pot so that they can just do their work and help the women, be there for them, and then they don't have to have the money problems and stress.
That's one of the things that really attracted me to you, is that, how can we utilize the funds, to get the most out of it, and you guys with the people that are, you look at the programs and you decide which ones you think are effective and how you can have the most reach, and then you do that. Yeah, that's a great model. I like that. So anything else that you'd like to share with the people that might be watching this?
Yeah, I would really encourage people to go see our latest research report. It's called it's the 2020 Status of Women in Arizona Research Report. It's on our website, because you will be amazed at, well, some people probably won't be amazed or shocked at the numbers. And then I think a lot of times when people see that, it drives them to action. How I started off our conversation of how this organization got started is we see something and we don't think it's right and we want to make change. And so I think that will inspire people. We always are looking for board members with specific skill sets that can help us move our mission forward, and really not even just our mission, to really move the status of women forward in our state. And everything we do here is for Arizona women. So anything that's support-wise, volunteers, it's all to help stay through locally in our state. And then we're also looking for volunteers. We look for mentors for our She Leads Leadership Development Program. We look for donors. If you work for a company that has a sponsorship or grant program, we look for that. So we're always here and open to get people to get involved in whatever way works for them. And one thing I will say that a lot of people don't know about is we started a membership campaign, and it's not your traditional membership. It's a mission-focused membership. And basically, you don't go to any meetings. It's basically, I'm going to give each month what I can out of my resources, and knowing that I'm helping with the research, the advocacy, and all the programs here in Arizona for women because I don't have the time. But I want to be part of a larger network and group of people that are really making change in our state. So there's all kinds of ways, and we would love to talk with anyone who wants to help move the needle around women's issues here in the state of Arizona.
Tell us again what the website is. So how would they get in touch with you?
So azfw.org, and they can also call 602-532-2800. And also we're on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. So those are all on our website as well. I'll be honest, I can't rattle those off the top of my
come
head.
on. There's too many of it. There's too many. Well, it's been wonderful talking with you, Mesha, and learning more about the organization, and all of us behind this book are hoping and trying to push to be able to get you guys as much as we can through this means of fundraising.
Well, if I could say one last thing, Diane, is thank you to all of the women who contributed to the book and shared their stories, because that's one thing that really helps bring other women along is when people see there's others dealing with the same struggles or situations that they are, and see that individuals who are able to get help or get out of their situation and doing better. That really does spark, a little something in that person to get the courage to not only tell their story, but to try to get out of it. So it's almost like, when you go to, what is it, AA, and they say the first step is admitting. Well, the first step for us is being able to have that courage to tell someone what's going on and to seek for the help is probably the next stage. But that's a hard, hard thing to do. But when other women do it, it really does inspire women to come forward and ask for help. So thank
Absolutely.
you.
Absolutely. Well, and I've been amazed, and I'm like, let's put together some stories. And I've just been moved by the stories that were shared, and just the reactions of the women. And it's been a pleasure highlighting them as well. So it's been very fulfilling.
I'm
So
looking forward to reading the book. So
yes. Well, April 14th, that's when it comes out. So
great.
all right. Well, thank you again, Mesha. And thank you for watching, everybody. And if you'd like to share the interview, please feel free to do that. You can go to FromUsForYou.com, and that will give you a little bit more information about the book and everything else. So thank you very much.